boxing.
Dublin, are you ready? Boxing is coming home. Katie Taylor is coming home. In New York over the weekend, Taylor was ringside to watch Amanda Serrano unify her 4 belts at featherweight. If Serrano won and Taylor agreed, they would fight. Well, Serrano won, Taylor's agreed, and they're fighting on May 20 in Dublin. Well, we know the date, we know the city, the venue we're not sure about. There's a lot of people involved in finding and sourcing the venue. This is a very special edition of 5 Live Boxing. I'm Steve Bunce in New York City. So it's the morning after the night before. The garden's off to my right through this window. I'm in a hotel full of boxers floating in and out, and I'm sat down with Eddie Hearn, the promoter last night and the promoter on May 20. Eddie, I'm not sure where to start. I suppose we've got to start with last night and that Serrano and Cruz fight. Again, what's going on?
I know, we've had some great fights already this year, and I just posted on social media saying fight of the year, and it was February the 4th. So, but it will definitely be up there, when December comes. I thought Erica Cruz was unbelievable.
Relentless.
I mean, after 5 rounds, we're sitting there. I'm conflicted as usual. I've got Erica Cruz is our fighter. I've got a contract that's been signed subject to Serrano winning for Taylor Serrano too. And after 5 rounds, I'm thinking, I have no idea what's going to happen here. It was a very close fight. And then Serrano, I think, hurt her in the 6th. And then, the cut to Erica Cruz didn't help as well. And I think
terrible.
Serrano won pretty much every round of the back end of the fight. And it was just incredible. The atmosphere. Women's boxing now, the motivation for me is more about being able to make great matchups. Like when you get a champion in division, you look at the rest of the division and think, how do we make one champion in the division? I think that's what's been missing in boxing in general.
Boxing period.
And it's so frustrating in male boxing where it's like politics, he doesn't like him, TV companies, like you just can't get to undisputed. You see it every now and again. But we're seeing it now in nearly every division.
Bang,
and also the ability and their willingness to fight other champions in other divisions. I mean, that's what you don't see in male boxing as well. So you've got, Serrano's moving up 2 divisions to fight Taylor.
With all those belts.
And all of a sudden,
with all those belts.
Serrano and, Alicia Baumgardner is talking about jumping up 2 divisions to fight Chantel Cameron.
Yeah, she
and
fancies
so
it as
forth,
well.
So it's a brilliant time for boxing, and it's delivering, these fights. And by the way, just have to think carefully about this 3-minute thing.
Yeah.
Because this 2-minute action is unbelievable, and it is all action from the first bell. And I think 3-minute rounds
changes everything.
I just think people would slow the pace.
And it changes the economics because you're asking them to do a third more, so therefore you've got to stump up a third more money. By the way,
but also
By
the
the way.
value of the fight doesn't change.
No, absolutely.
And that's something I hear from female fighters a lot. Is they'll have to pay me more money if it's 3 minutes. I haven't really thought of that before, but actually makes no difference
None
to
at
the
all.
economics of the fight if it's 2 or 3.
If there's a couple of old dinosaurs out there saying I'm not watching it unless they're doing 3 minutes, you know what? Carry on not watching it then, because there's enough people watching it. I thought Serrano was magnificent, and when she dropped Cruz in that last round, it actually was a thud. It was a heavy noise you felt. I thought that was great. You were in the ring with the pair of them afterwards when they came together, when Katie showed up holding her belt, Serrano's there holding her belts with a few bruises. What was that like up in the ring? Because I couldn't tell from where I was standing at the ringside, but I couldn't get that look. I like to see the eyes.
Yeah.
What was it like? What did it feel like?
Firstly, in about the 7th round, when you've got a fight that's 13 weeks away, it's quite a lot of time, but you're also thinking the first question you ask to the fighter when you get in the ring is, how's your hands?
Yeah.
Because your hands is something that could go quite easily in a fight.
Unseen as well.
But then when she got cut, Serrano, in the 7th round, I was like, no. And what happened was Nikisa from MVP, we had an agreement that after the fight, he would go up to Amanda Serrano and her trainer Jordan and say, are you okay to announce this fight? Are you going to be ready for 13 weeks?
Is there any damage, basically?
Yeah, and basically I sort of kept out of it, but I watched the conversation, and Jordan goes over and went, and Amanda Serrano just went, hell yeah, like as if to say, yeah, I'm fine. And I looked at the cut and I was like, that's okay, just probably maybe some strips or maybe a couple of stitches, but that'll be healed in 3 or 4 weeks. So, we're good. And it's a massive opportunity for both, you know.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult doing a face-off in the ring because you've got one person who's just done 10 hard rounds in a war,
Yeah.
and the other one that's just been sitting there with a pulse of 40,
Yeah.
Katie Taylor, watching the fight.
And relaxing for 2 or 3 months, by the way.
And then you do a headline, you know, you do a face-to-face, and
Hold on, Ed. Let me try and interrupt you there because I've actually got some audio from when they were together in the ring. This is when Chris Mannix got up for working for DAZN to get the pair of them together. This is what went down when you pulled them together in the ring last night.
Katie, I want to ask you both are all smiles as we stand here facing off. What were you thinking watching Amanda Serrano just go to war with Erica Cruz?
I thought it was a great performance, and I obviously was cheering her on because we wanted this fight, undisputed champion versus undisputed champion. The last fight was an epic fight, and I think the next one's going to be exactly the same.
It is one of the craziest facts in all of boxing that you, Katie Taylor, have never fought as a professional in your home country of Ireland. What does it mean to you to go back to Ireland, not just in fight, but fight in the biggest fight for women's boxing?
This is more than a dream come true. My debut in Ireland against the Amanda Serrano, the real deal Amanda Serrano. This is incredible, and as I said, the last fight was epic, and I expect nothing else for the next one.
You won the last fight, a competitive fight on the scorecards. Why was it important to you to do this rematch?
Well, this is still the biggest fight in women's boxing, and I only want the biggest fights, and this is exactly what I want.
All right, Amanda, we'll turn to you here. You hear a lot of your fans in this building tonight. I don't think there'll be quite as many on May 20th when you go to Ireland. Why were you so willing to sign up and go to Katie's home turf?
You know, Katie is a true champion, and she came here to New York, and she fulfilled both our dreams to fight each other. Now she deserves to fight in Ireland, and it's going to be a bigger and better fight over there.
It was an ultra-competitive fight the first time around. How much did that loss bother you in the aftermath?
You know what? It didn't bother me too much. I mean, of course you want to win, but I've learned a lot, and now I know what I need to do.
What kind of changes? I mean, you said you made some changes to your training, adding some sparring, doing some other things. Do you feel like you've done enough to win the second time?
I've done enough, and I will do more.
You'll do more. Do you think you can convince some of this pro-Puerto Rican crowd to make the trip to Ireland?
I think I might have some. I might have some to take the trip. Right, guys?
Well, that was the pair of them, both respectful, as you'd expect, in the ring afterwards. Now, Katie Taylor, Eddie, she's the type of fighter that transforms. You know, she goes from being, let's use it. She goes from being like a Sunday school teacher, a woman clutching her Bible, and being really pure and floating in and out with her head down, getting in and out of places anonymously. And then the moment something happens, like half a challenge, she doesn't jump in their face like a la Tony Bellew, but you can sense it. It's like an immediate, it's like the hairstand up on the back of her neck.
That goes across all things. You know, that goes across fights, that goes across negotiations, that goes across media responsibilities that she just doesn't want to. Yeah, as you know, Barnsley. But like, she's not. The great thing about Katie Taylor is, like you say, it's, you know, she's just completely honest. Like, if she don't want to do something, I mean, she's lost, but she's given up the opportunity of hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds worth of endorsements over the year. Could be gambling, could be alcohol, could be, you know, brands that she just says, no, not for me.
It's not what I do.
Anything that involves a sponsorship deal for Katie Taylor, if it involves a day out of camp for commercial work, zero interest, it's just not happening. You know, and that's the same for media. You know,
I know.
And it's. Sometimes I get the blame to me. Oh, we can't get access to Katie Taylor. I'm sorry, nor can I.
Nor can I.
You know, but
that's the truth.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons why she's such a great, because she's given so much to the sport of boxing, and she's, you know, it's not to say she's not bothered about the money, but at the same time, like, she'll do what Katie Taylor
the boxing
does.
first and the other stuff secondly. And I've got to ask you, and I've held off all week and I've chatted to you a few times, and I wanted to drive you mad with Dublin, May 20, and what the shenanigans and this, that, and the other, and you being mentioned in the Irish Parliament, and you being mentioned by this guy, and Conor McGregor throwing your name out there. And where are we at the moment? Because last night, inside that venue over there, we announced the fight's on. It's the rematch. We announced May 20th. We announced Ireland. Where are we at the moment with Dublin, with venues, with negotiations, with your new pal Conor? Where are we?
Yeah, I think it's almost certain that May 20th will be in the Three Arena. I mean, we will have conversations this bit. There's been a lot of uproar, and everyone says a lot of good stuff, but actually making some movement and you know, ultimately, when we negotiated this fight, there was an amount of money that Katie Taylor wanted for this fight, and there was an amount of money that Amanda Serrano wanted to make for this fight. with the costs of Croke Park, and the Irish government came out and said, no, the rental is actually just a little bit more than Wembley. It's nothing to do with just the rental. It's the cost that we've been asked to incur to stage the fight at Croke Park by Croke Park. And that is 3 times more than staging a fight at Wembley Stadium. Fact. So we're not moaning about it. That's
They're
the
just facts.
requirements of their proposal. The numbers don't add up for us. And, the problem is with sort of the Twitter sphere and stuff like that is, people actually apply very little logic where they say, well, just pay the money. What's the matter with you? It's a business, like these girls, we want to give them maximum money. We want to make money.
Of course.
I mean, it's a massive mega fight. And ultimately, this time around, at the moment, it doesn't work at Croke Park. Now, it can work in September, or it can work if, I don't know, Conor McGregor comes in with a sponsorship. That might be pie in the sky, but he certainly has a passion for delivering a big event for Ireland. It might be the government, might be GAA, it might be Croke Park, who say, OK, we'll cover some of these costs and that cost. But the reality is, for 13 weeks, it's unlikely. So,
Time's flying.
And actually, I start looking at Katie Taylor's career now and thinking, I might not see her leave Ireland again till she retires now. Because I see, she's made it clear. She wants her next 2 fights. She wants Amanda Serrano and Chantel Cameron. That's her next 2 fights. You'd probably throw now Alicia Baumgardner into that mix as well.
Alicia would throw herself in, that's
and there's
for sure.
probably a couple of rematches in there as well. So I'm looking at it saying, perhaps we go to 3 Arena in in May, but then we go to
Croke Park in September.
Yeah, so, but we will explore it, we will exhaust it, but at the same time, it's 13 weeks, and Katie Taylor will make her debut in Ireland on May 20th, and we'll announce that venue in due course.
And can the sums add up, or you're obviously finding a way for the sums to add up at the 3 Arena, which of course isn't an outdoor 80,000 seat venue?
Yeah, there's actually a perception that the massive arena does such a bigger gate than 10,000 higher price tickets, of course, which you would be.
Of course.
The bigger, we had the same thing recently with, a good example would be Ben Eubank, which obviously didn't happen, but that was the biggest grossing gate in the history of the O2, right? And actually, when you look at the numbers versus a stadium fight for 60,000, the show was more profitable doing it at the O2 Arena, and the ticket prices change, doing it. And you're talking about, to give you an example, the costs of running the stadium costs and running costs would be well over £1.5 million
At Croke Park.
right? Well, at the 3 Arena, they might be £100,000.
Yeah.
So
It's a
all of
big
a sudden,
difference. It's a lot in the
it
kitty.
is, yeah,
It's a lot of money in the kitty.
but you would generate a bigger gate at
course.
Croke Park, but not as significant as £1.5 million difference. So I don't want to bore people with the business, but ultimately it is a business. These things don't run themselves, and if you're going to be able to build a model there, you got to get it right, and that's why ultimately the decision was made.
So have there been discussions secondary to what's been coming out this week about possibly Croke Park in September and October? Because that was certainly something the Croke Park officials were talking about in the Irish press this week.
A lot of what they say is obviously common sense. There's also a rugby event on May the 20th, and there's a lot of tourism into Dublin, into Ireland.
And there'll probably be an Irish
the
team in the
value
final.
to them of doing another event on the other day doesn't really stand up. So we can look at the possibility. Look, if Amanda Serrano wins, there'll be a third.
Bingo.
And it's going to be a thriller, the second one. So maybe that's the one at Croke Park. But the problem is so many, it feels like 3 years now. We keep saying, we're going to take her to Ireland. We're going to do Croke Park.
It is 3 years, 2019.
Yeah,
when
but
we were here for
last
Delphine
year,
Basson.
after April 30th, we planned September at Croke Park.
remember.
It fell through because actually Amanda didn't want the rematch at the time. So it was like, we lost the opportunity. Now we think, right, May, Croke Park. Then that starts to fall through. It's like, if we don't go now, we're never going to go. So 3 Arena, which will be unbelievable, which will be electric. It's a banked arena. Conor McGregor's been there. It's fantastic. We spoke about that, and I think I see most of her career now finishing in Ireland.
And just to confirm, a simple case of Conor McGregor stumping up, €500,000 doesn't solve the Croke Park conundrum.
No, it probably would actually, but it's not, look.
It's not that simple.
No, and also, as much as Conor McGregor wants to see Katie Taylor fight at Croke Park, I'm not sure it's just as easy as him. And I don't want to And then I get Chris, well, why don't you pay the money? It's like, because it's a
business.
show, you know, and ultimately, but again, for Conor, it would have to work for him, and I don't know whether it's Proper 12 or one of his brands or something like
sure.
that, but he definitely has a passion. He loves Katie Taylor, as does the whole of Ireland.
Yeah.
But he also said he sees the logic of going 3 arena and then a stadium, you know? So the most important thing is to make sure that we're there.
And when you start looking at it, it makes all the sense in the world. You know, when you actually start analysing it, you know, it makes sense for to have that there, leaving Croke Park for later on. That's the path that makes sense. So, Ed, without obviously, I don't need figures. Would they be getting in theory more than they got for fighting in the Garden last April?
More.
Much more.
Yeah.
Okay, which is understandable.
Yeah.
Because it's worth
But
much
it's
more.
the levels that we go to. You know, when those purses were reached at the Garden, it was purses that no female fighter had or has since ever been paid. Now they're getting much more. And that's, you know, Conor McGregor sort of said in his speech, make sure Katie's being well looked after.
Yeah.
You know, I
Is
said,
that-
don't
is
worry
that you
about
giving her
that.
200
You know, don't worry about that.
200,000
You know,
euros
yeah,
or something,
exactly.
yeah.
I know, but that's the perception. You know, I've always wanted to pay Katie Taylor as much money as possible.
Yeah, and it's
you know?
worked.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ed, so thanks for that, for clearing that up, because I think that's absolutely right. When do you think we might have an update on that?
Well, we sit here on Sunday now after the fight, and tomorrow there'll be a big announcement for AJ and about another 6 or 7 of our cards coming
Sure.
up. And I think there'll be a press tour for Katie Taylor in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So
Brilliant.
I think, you know, I don't want to get people's hopes up about Croke Park, because genuinely I believe it will be at the 3 Arena, but we'll confirm that probably in the next week to 10 days.
Now, before we talk a little bit about Alicia Baumgardner, we mentioned her name there. I just want to ask you a couple of things quickly about her. You mentioned AJ there. I know there's meant to be a conference this week in London, if I'm not mistaken,
Thursday, yeah.
for AJ, and that's looking like April and looking like Franklin in theory. So that could be announced. That could be announced this week. Could be announced
Tomorrow,
this week.
that
Officially announced on Monday.
correct, and then the press conference on Thursday in London.
And because this pod will go out, remember, on Monday afternoon.
Yeah.
And so basically, and then your entire 1 and 2 you know, the first 5-6 months of the year will be coming out in the next few days.
Yeah.
And that will include AJ, and that will include
That'll include AJ, that'll include Callum Smith, that'll include Joe Caldina, that'll obviously include Taylor Serrano. That will include fights also in the US, and I think it's about 7 or 8 fight nights in total.
Brilliant. So let's do a little, if I could just briefly, Alicia Baumgardner winning at super featherweight, unifying the titles, a unique night with the double. Now, before you and I talk about her, I managed to grab hold of her at ringside after the fight. She had a shiner, she had a dog, and this is Alicia with me in the Garden.
Listen, I'm just thankful. I thank the Lord for just bringing me here in this moment. I dug deep. I show what a champion looks like, and I keep proving why I belong here, and I do belong here. I'm the undisputed champion of the world at 130.
And you hurt her, you dropped her, she looked really hurt, but she came back and she pushed you, and you had to do a little bit of thinking in some of those rounds and not go too wild.
Absolutely. You know, that's what a champion does. You know, sometimes you don't get them out of there right away. But again, I knew that I was going to finish strong, and that's what we did. You've seen that in the 10th round.
Oh yeah, you finished strong in the 10th round. You conserved a bit of energy. The one thing that struck me is I was looking at you and I was thinking, after what you told me the other day, I was thinking, there's a woman that can go to lightweight. There's a woman that can go to super lightweight. There's a woman that can go to welterweight. It just struck me that, you know, you're ready to move up when you want to.
Yes, and that's very true. Again, I'm here to make history. I'm here to make a name for myself. And I love boxing. I've been boxing since an 8-year-old, and you know, this is just the beginning.
So Eddie, that was Alicia after the fight, and I see a woman whose days at super feather, as nice as it would be to fight at super feather, are numbered. She's a big girl. I mean, we talked about, you know, she's a lightweight, light welter, comfortably. She talked to me in the week about going up to 147, and I think it just reinforces what you said about all these women will fight each other. They're not afraid with their 4 belts, 5 belts to jump up a division. She's in that mix.
Yeah, she is. And, you know, Baumgardner's really exciting, dangerous, old school Detroit fighter. You know, rips to the body, big puncher.
Means every shot,
and
doesn't she?
Mekhaleb was fantastic as well, by the way. So
Staggering.
tough. And then, like you say, but I love Baumgardner against Serrano.
Yeah,
I
do
mean,
too.
that's an unbelievable fight.
Yeah, that's
and then you've got
X-rated, that,
Baumgardner against Cameron.
Yeah.
Great fight. Baumgardner against Taylor.
Yeah.
you've really got those 4 undisputed champions from 126 to 140 that can all fight each other in round robins.
And they'll all mix up.
You know, I know, like, we can't talk about, obviously, the 4 kings and Hagler and Hearns, but it's like, that's the female version.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So when you look back
no
at the
problem
glory...
applying 4 queens to that.
I know. When you go back to the glory days of boxing, that's the first time I've said that, and it's the first time I've really thought about it, but genuinely, like, show me a bad fight there. Every fight would be an absolute war. And Alicia Baumgardner said something in the press conference last night, which was, make the most of these time
Yeah,
here
absolutely.
right now in women's boxing, because I think, you're going to see more stars, but this is a really, like, amazing time.
Because
for the sport.
we both know going forward, when women have more options, they'll take more options. Now they've got fewer options, they've got fewer options to take. So that's why they are having to fight.
Yeah.
That's why even people on the undercard, Ramla Ali with a good 10-round win
Yep.
last night, Sky Nicholson with a messy and hard, but I thought clear 10-round win. These women, if they were men, it sounds like a contradiction in terms, they'd have another 7, 8, 9, 10 fights.
Yeah.
We haven't got 7, 8, 9, 10 fights. They got,
But they want championships
it now,
And
'cause that's the path.
And whenever I've got a world champion, they've never said to me, give us a couple of easy defences. They go, well, who's the other champion? How do we get to her quickly?
Eddie, just 1 second. Hold on. We'll get into AJ. Don't worry. But that's after this.
7 years ago, I was filming at East London Mosque when the story broke that 3 schoolgirls from the area had gone missing. They were heading to Syria to join the Islamic State group.
Breaking news this morning, 3 British schoolgirls are reportedly missing.
Shamima Begum was the only one of the girls to emerge from the ashes of the so-called caliphate. I've retraced her steps from the UK through Turkey and into Syria to find people who knew her and to investigate the truth of her story.
What do you think people think of you?
As a danger, as a risk, as a potential risk.
The Shamima Begum story, Series 2 of I'm Not a Monster.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
You've said some things recently about Anthony Joshua. You know, the whole sort of concept that, he's a finished fighter, he was a shot fighter, and he was never a good fighter in the first place. I think some of those statements have been A, cruel, B, misleading, and just outright wrong. I really do.
Well, look, I spend my life sitting down and giving time to the media, and I just see so many contradictions. Like, you can't on one side say that Anthony Joshua is finished, a shot fighter, mentally not up to it, and then put him in with Jermaine Franklin and say, AJ will breeze through him.
It's a mismatch.
I mean, and then, you've got Dillian White had a war with Jermaine Franklin. It could have gone either way on the judges' scorecards. And then Dillian White saying, it's a terrible fight for Anthony, like, it's an easy fight. The reality is, Anthony Joshua's next fight is at the O2 Arena. He could sell it out against you, Bunsey.
I know
right?
he could.
And,
he could sell out shadowboxing.
Yeah, and he's chose an opponent that's full of confidence.
Yeah.
Probably not the easiest style for AJ, an upright heavyweight.
Yeah.
Small guy, old school fighter, who's going to come to win. It's going to be a brilliant fight. And if AJ is past his best or is mentally not up to it, he will get beat
he'll find
at
out.
April the 1st. But I believe he's going to come back with vengeance. And, I see a guy, you got to remember, this guy, look, he's won 2 world heavyweight titles.
Yeah.
He's got bundles of money.
Yeah.
He's out in Texas,
Yeah.
right, grafting away.
Not living a high
in
life
some
either.
sweatbox gym, right? Not in a mansion.
That's right.
Like just in a local digs, right? Grinding every day because he's that driven to be the best and regain his world heavyweight title. It baffles me in life where anyone wants to criticise a guy like Anthony Joshua,
Baffles me,
who
son.
gives himself time, gives time to everybody, right? Has spent years trying to be a good role model, good ambassador. This is the problem with our country, is when you get to the top, everyone wants to just bring you back down again. Instead of saying, look at that guy. He's our boy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Damn
and
right.
like you've known him for years and years and years. Every time he sees you,
Yep.
it's smiles, it's
100%
cuddles, it's
time.
time, and and it's
Yep.
difficult for him because there's a million people want his time.
Yeah.
right.
That's true.
But I think you get to a stage where you have to just say, as a fighter or a person, F you. Do you know what I mean? I've given
Everything.
everybody all my time. And if you don't want to support me, I'm doing this for me now.
Yeah.
And I think this is the time where AJ needs to do it for himself rather than do it for everybody else, which I think he spent a lot of his career doing. And I feel like the backlash of losing to Ruiz and people questioning him, it did hurt him, because everybody loves to be loved. You know, and all of a sudden he's like, wow, why the hate?
Didn't realise I was a bum.
Yeah, but why the hate? You know, I've not
about that?
You know, he's a pure soul.
Yeah.
Really. And it's like, if he was a bad person, if he did controversial things, if he was like, I'd expect backlash. But he's never done anything wrong. All he's ever done is tried his best and tried to be a good person and try and promote boxing and be a role model. So I think you just get to that stage. So don't worry about what people think anymore. Yeah. Do it for you, mate. You want this more than anything, and I can't wait to see him back.
I can't either. Eddie, in the shadow of the garden, after a night like that, and some stirring stuff as Amanda Serrano looked into Katie Taylor's eyes and vice versa, and sitting with you here, it's been another great adventure, son.
Thanks for coming, mate. Thanks for coming.
See
you at Wood Lara for another tear-up.
What a year. 6 weeks into the year, we would have had what we've had after Wood Lara. Because, you know, Eubank and Liam Smith was just the most shocking, outrageous and great event. Then we had Beterbiev and Yard, which was what through your fingers. Then we had the two women in the two massive fights there last night. And then we've got, in a couple of weeks' time, we've got less than 2 weeks' time, we've got Wood and Lara, which is the most X-rated fight.
You know, we're in a world, you know, we've got YouTube boxing, we've got all this kind of stuff. What we've seen over the last couple of weeks and coming up in Nottingham, it shows you how great the sport is, you know. And I think, listen, hats off to the fighters because they're going in there and they're going to war.
Eddie, once again, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate how busy you are. You go off.
Cheers, mate.
And do your stuff. Now, we mentioned Ramla Ali and we mentioned Sky Nicholson there. Sky Nicholson got herself 10 rounds. She's the Olympian. She's the woman from Australia. She's a good fighter. She got 10 fantastic rounds. They were essential. And as for Ramla Ali, well, she delivered something to the Garden, a little bit more than some cute moves and some good boxing. She brought back to the Garden the chants of Ali. Ali.
It was so good, yeah.
How'd you feel?
Feel good. I haven't been like too well recently, the last couple of weeks. So I've had like the best camp and then
starting to feel bad.
The worst camp, all in one.
All in one?
Because it was like going so well and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then like a little curveball came and it was just like, the thing is when you work so hard, you don't let little things set you back. You just got to get on with it, and that's what I had to do today. It wasn't obviously my best performance, but knowing what I went through to give that performance then makes it my best performance, if that makes sense.
Absolutely does, yeah.
Yeah. So
she made you work. She was very strong. She was very fit.
She wasn't strong, but she was fit, for sure. Yeah. And then obviously when you're not feeling well, that's the last thing you need is someone that's fit. But you know, you have to push through mentally, and then you got to like sort of tell yourself, look, listen, I did this in camp when I wasn't feeling worse than this. This is nothing. This is a walk in the park, and that's literally what I was telling myself. This is nothing. I'm gonna get through this. This is easy. So yeah.
And you fought for a belt at Madison Square Garden.
And I won it.
And you won it.
And
it's going some, isn't it?
And it's too big to even fit in my waist. It's like falling down. That's how skinny I became. Jesus. Yeah, it's great.
Oh, brilliant. Listen, it was great there tonight, and I'm really pleased for you. And you've got a lovely shine on the left. It's a classic shine. It's almost like a makeup shiner.
Do you know what? I'd have preferred it if it was a punch. Then I would have like been like, you know what? That was great, a great shot, but it was like a clash of heads. It's like so annoying. It's like, you know, when you get a shiner from a clash of heads, because then it reminds you that you were a bit reckless as well, because you managed to clash heads.
But in the past, in your other life, you've actually gone for auditions and you've gone for modelling assignments with stitches in and cut bruises. Anything lined up in the next week that you're gonna arrive with an eye like that?
No, what I've got planned is a bit of R&R, rest. Sorry. Yeah, just a bit of rest, bit of R&R. You know, get the rest that, you know, my body was telling me to take a couple of weeks ago, but I was like, no, I've got something to do. I can't take rest. So yeah, that's the only thing I've got planned for the next week or so.
Well done. You did it tonight in the Garden.
Thank you very much.
Ramla, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And that was Ramla Ali in her dressing room there. And as I was looking in her eyes from about 10 inches away, you could see that she wasn't well. The coughing, the eyes, she just looked like she's coming down with something. Anyway, she's still learning. She's got a great story and she can fight. Don't worry about that. Now, when I left Ramla, I walked downstairs and I could sort of sense this kind of bit of a commotion after my left. So I went over and there he was, the giant of a man, one of the New York icons, one of the greatest Garden favourites, a heavyweight who could have been and in any other time would have been the world heavyweight champion, Gerry Cooney. I couldn't resist going over and, well, talking to my old pal.
Let me ask you a quick question. You boxed here when you were an amateur. You were selling a place when you were a kid of about 17. Irish Gerry Cooney.
16. I won the middleweight championship. It mattered in the big garden, and I've been fighting. All my amateur fights were in this arena, and the main event for the finals. And I had 3 finals. I won them twice and lost one time. And most of my fights have been. I fought Norton. I fought so many great guys in this arena, and I love this place. I always love being here. All these guys that have been working here for years, and we're like
the same
family.
guys.
And we're like family.
What was it like the first time you walked out upstairs, Gerry? All that expectation on your head. Go on, tell me.
I was 16. They turned the lights off. I'm in the corner, and they put a flashlight on me, and my legs started shaking. 21,000 people. I'm fighting for the championship, and I wound up knocking the guy out in the 3rd round.
Of course you did.
And so, yeah, it's been great ever since, bro.
And then the Norton fight was here, 54 seconds in a house upstairs. You know, the next fight you're fighting Larry Holmes, you know that's in the bag. He's fought and beaten Ali. It's Kenny Norton against you, the kid, Gerry the Kid.
Kenny Norton, I think if I was in the shape I was in fighting Norton, I could have beat Holmes. The Holmes was great, but Norton, I didn't know if you back him up, he can't get off. And I backed him up, hit him with the right hand, he buckled, and I said, let me take a shot. And I took 30 seconds and finished him off.
Savage finish, wasn't it?
That was a savage finish. It was like 4 punches from death.
If that's a great description, 4 punches from death. Let me ask you this, Gerry. On those nights when you were fighting here and you were the star of the garden, did you come in earlier and walk around in an empty garden and sit on the ring and get the flavour for it?
Well, you know, we'd always be here during the weigh-in, and we would hang around and get the pictures on the walls. I still come in here and I'm amazed. I go to a lot of the Knick games, I go to the Ranger games, and to walk around the arena and see the beautiful pictures of all the great moments in history here at Madison Square Garden is amazing. And to be part of them is really just out of this world.
And Gerry, finally, I've got to ask you this question. Many years ago, before you knew me, before we worked together, you broke my heart one night in London because you knocked out my hero, Joe Griffin.
Oh, my God.
In Young England, Young USA. He was lethal. He was vicious.
Oh,
he was what he wasn't going to do to you, and you knocked him out in a round, Gerry. I've never forgiven you.
Let me tell you
I've never
something.
forgiven you.
I hit him on the chin, and nothing happened. I hit him with the best shot I feel, and nothing happened. I knocked him out in the body the next round and came home 4-0. Love you, bro.
Hey, Gerry, enjoy the game.
Love
It's been
you.
brilliant. Fantastic, Gerry. Enjoy the
Happy
fights.
New Year.
And to you, Big Gerry.
Gerry Cooney there, and if you've never seen Gerry Cooney destroying Ken Norton in the garden inside a minute in front of 21,000 people, treat yourself to it. It is genuinely one of the most serious and damaging finishes I can remember. Gerry Cooney, just one of the names, just one of the faces, and just one of the voices on this particular show. I love weeks in New York, walking around the garden, looking at the pictures, talking to fighters, going backstage, being hassled by the security, and there are thousands of them, and sitting down and watching fights. It's like a fairy tale. It's like a dream. It's been a great week in New York. What a great start it's been to the boxing year. I'm Steve Bunce, and this has been the 5 Live Boxing Podcast, the New York edition.
Let's get ready to rumble!
5 Live Boxing.